Good afternoon, everybody. So, I'm going to start off by saying that perhaps I'm biased in my belief, my opinion, the topic that I'm going to speak about today. But I'm going to talk about why storytelling is the ultimate skill to develop in life. Now, I'm speaking largely in part from the perspective of the creator economy, from artists, from writers and such, but I think it is prevalent across multiple domains in life. And I'm going to talk about why. So let's discuss it. So think about all the cultural figures that you admire, whether they be podcasters, journalists, politicians, filmmakers. They all have one thing in common, and they know how to tell a good story. The successful ones do anyway. They know how to tell a story. They know how to tell their story, and they know how to tell stories in general. They know how to keep their audience engaged. So, even in life, let's talk about generally speaking. Even in life, when you develop relationships with people, you are telling them stories about your life, your experiences, your perspective, what you've been through. Stories are how we make sense of the world, how we make sense of who we are and what we want out of life. A story naturally implies some sort of transformation, right? Of undergoing a struggle, of facing an obstacle. And this is essentially what life is. Obstacles and struggles, nonstop. Every day you wake up, I guarantee you, if you pay close enough attention, you have a goal and you have obstacles in your way, and then it arrives at some sort of conclusion. Even if it's not a problem that concludes in your life, you arrive at a conclusion in some capacity. Now, let's turn here. So, if someone were to ask you, who are you? What would you say to him? What would your response be? Now, more often than not, you're not going to just state a simple list of facts that are true about you. You might do that, but generally speaking, what you're going to do is you're going to tell some kind of a story. You're going to tell them about where you were born, where you were raised, what your relationship with your parents was like, what your goals and ambitions are, what your perspective is. It may not have necessarily a beginning and middle and end, but it will be some semblance of a story that you tell them if someone were to ask you who you are. Key events in your life that shaped your perspective, right? So, understanding the themes of your life and what brought you to this point and where you're going and where you want to go are key to navigating this complex world that we find ourselves in. And look, let's set aside the creator economy for just a second, okay? Let's say you genuinely want a 9-to-5 job. You just want to work a good 9-to-5 job with benefits and you want to retire, right? Okay, cool. Let me give you a few examples of how storytelling comes into play in that arena of life. Let's take corporate and blue collar. I've experienced both of those arenas of life. I've worked in a corporate environment and I've worked in a blue collar environment. More so blue collar for me. That's what I have more experience in. But I had a few years experience working for a cosmetics company in El Segundo. And that was interesting, but that's a side note. That's a story for another time. So, let's say you're in a corporate environment and you want to negotiate with your boss for a raise. Or you're giving a presentation. So, you have to tell a story to your coworkers during that presentation about what you were presenting and why it is important, why they should take it into consideration. Now, if you're trying to negotiate a raise with your boss, first and foremost, you have to tell him that first you want a raise to begin with. But that's a whole hurdle to jump through. A lot of people don't even know how to approach their boss and ask for a raise. And I completely understand the trepidations surrounding that. Now, it's not exactly a campfire story that you're telling them necessarily, but it is some semblance of a story about why you deserve a raise, what value you provide the company, and the value of what you're providing currently is worth more than the compensation you're currently receiving. And you got to figure out a way to explain that to them. And you're more than likely going to do that by telling some sort of a story. So at a blue collar job, right? Sorry, I had to let that car pass. At a blue collar job, right? Warehouse, construction. I have a little bit of experience in construction, not much, landscaping and such from when I was a kid, but I have a lot of experience working in warehouses. So in a warehouse environment, in a blue collar environment, you will get to know your fellow employees. They're going to become like a second family to you. Trust me, if you work there long enough, these guys, blue collar jobs, labor jobs of any kind, these guys become like your second family. It's a level of camaraderie that you would find in prison or the military or sports. It's the same thing. A bunch of roughneck blue collar guys working in an environment like that. You are going to get to know them. They're going to become like your brothers almost. And it's pretty cool actually. But anyway, let's get back to the point. So you work in a blue collar job, right? You're going to get to know these guys because you're doing hard labor work all day, and you're going to talk, you're going to make conversation, you're going to get to know each other. You will find yourself and your fellow coworkers telling each other stories about your lives, about each other's lives. You're going to tell each other stories about women you slept with, fist fights you got into, the time you got arrested and went to jail. It's real in the field at these blue collar jobs, especially where I work at in Long Beach, trust me, but that's a whole story for another time. So entertainment is key in those labor jobs. You may not think of yourself as a storyteller if you're just a landscaper or an order picker or an inventory specialist at a warehouse, or if you're a lumper, which is what you do, you offload containers all day. That's basically all you do. So you may not think of yourself as a storyteller, but you and your coworkers are telling each other stories. And trust me, entertainment is key at labor jobs. It is key. Being able to entertain your coworkers, that is how you get inducted into the tribe, so to speak. So ultimately, through writing, speaking, creating, you explore the human struggle through storytelling. That's what you do. And life unfolds in various chapters. Now, you're the protagonist. You have a goal. There's obstacles in your way. You have to confront them, and you will overcome them, or you will fail to overcome them and you'll be defeated. But hopefully, you change for the better either way. Now, hopefully you have an overarching goal, however you pronounce that word. An overarching goal that you're pursuing, that you have various mini goals, subplots, if you will. Each of them will force you to transform little by little. My overarching goal is to become a professional screenwriter. Now, that's my external goal. My internal goal could perhaps be to, to connect with others through storytelling. Now, there's various obstacles that come along with that, both internally and externally. My mini goals in this current chapter of my life are to achieve financial freedom through digital writing, copywriting, and helping my friends grow their businesses through those specific methods I just named. Now, my current obstacle in this chapter of my life is my financial dependence on my 9-to-5 warehouse job. So that job served as a blessing in many ways because it created a great deal of fodder for my screenwriting portfolio. I was able to get a very fascinating project, more than one project out of it. So it was a blessing in disguise. And the fact that it's an obstacle is also a blessing in its own way. But my point is that the fact that if I stop showing up to this job, I will not get paid. And that is my current obstacle and my goal to achieve financial freedom so I can focus on writing and creating full time. Most writers and creators go through this to some degree or another. So essentially my internal obstacles, and I'm sure there are many, but my internal obstacles could be, probably fear of stepping into the unknown could perhaps be one of them. There's probably many of them that I would need to analyze myself a little bit more to discern exactly what they are specifically. But I say all this to say, stories are how we make sense of the world and our lives. And we have to wake up every day, and if we want to achieve what we want most, we have to face oftentimes what are our biggest fears. So life is you essentially having to confront your biggest fear to achieve what you want most, or figuring out what you want isn't exactly what you need. Now that's the real kicker right there. That's when life really gets fun. But yes, storytelling, that's life's ultimate skill. Now, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I don't think I am. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to end it on that note. I will see you next time. You have an amazing weekend. God bless you. And I will see you next Saturday or Sunday. All right. Peace.